and you're watching Political Standpoint. Thanks for staying with us. The Independent National Electoral Commission has now published the particulars of presidential candidates and their running mates for the 2023 general election. The information included that of the APC presidential candidate, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, and his running mate, Ibrahim Masari. Atiku Abubakar, the PDP presidential candidate, and his running mate, Governor Obinna Okowa of Delta State. And then Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, and his running mate, Doyin Okupe, amongst others. Now, while the APC says Ibrahim Masari is a placeholder whose name will be substituted, the PDP says it is good to go as Obinna Okowa is the substantive running mate to Atiku Abubakar. Now, reactions have been trailing these developments, and I have joining me via Zoom Delta State Commissioner for Information, Charles Aniago. Good to have you join us.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We also have in the studio someone who was a former political advisor to the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo. He's also a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, Akin Oshutoku, as well as a civil rights activist, Comrade Mark Adebayo. Good to have you, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Let me begin with you here in the studio, Mr. Akin Oshutoku. Because you are a former political advisor and you've seen how politics play, talk to us about what do you make of this choice of Okowa as the presidential running mate to Atiku, vice presidential running mate, and then if you think that that was a strategic decision.
Well, I think it is. Once you have a presidential candidate, then you look for the option of balancing the tickets. So if you have a presidential candidate coming from the north, it makes sense to have the vice presidential candidate from the south. Another factor that has gone into play also, of course, is this religion. So if you have a Muslim as presidential candidate, it is seen as being balanced if you have a Christian as running mate. So this is all about balancing the ticket. Now, the problem is that because there is a precedent in Nigeria where you have actually had a ticket comprising two Muslims as presidential candidate and vice presidential candidate. That's the late Chief Moshood Abiola and Babagana Kingbe. Now you see, but there is a substantive difference between now and then, in a negative way. In the past 8 years, especially, you've seen Nigeria being divided, angrily divided along religion, along regional, along ethnicity. So when you add those kind of polarization, you will be adding fuel to fire if you now pick your running mate who is of the same faith with you, right? It may be effective at getting votes, right? But that should not be that means it's good for the candidate, but it's not good for the nation like Nigeria. We're still building a nation. And those are the kind of things that, as I said, is efficient. And that's why people say, well, politicians look to the next election. Statesmen look to the next generation. So it's conventional, the way they are pairing up, the way the presidential candidate of PDP has paired with Okowa. That's a conventional way, of choosing a ticket.
All right. Let me take this conversation to the Delta State Commissioner for Information, Charles Aniago. He joins us via Zoom. He is his principal, but is now on the ticket, and we saw the rousing welcome for him in Delta State, where he was hosted to a reception upon his return. But let me ask you, because what people will say that for a vice presidential candidate, he must have three things. One of them is the financial war chest. The other should be that some sort of popularity within at least his zone and his region, if not a national popularity. He should be able to garner votes from his region. And then he should also have some level of economic proficiency, because that's the major job for the vice president. But of all these three criteria, what exactly does your principal, the governor of Delta State, bring to this ticket?
Well, thank you very much, and good afternoon, viewer. The major thing that my boss, the governor of Delta State, is bringing to the table is the integrity that underlines a number of his policies here in Delta, particularly the issue of ensuring that the economy of Delta runs smoothly. And so that is going to be a very major stuff he's bringing to the table. Then beyond that, we have also talked about the ability to galvanize the votes. Here in the South, and indeed a number of southern states, the governor is well respected. And of course, his colleagues in the North also have a high level of respect for him. So that means he will also be able to reach out. On the issue of financial war chest, prosecuting an election is not just the primary purpose of just one person. So no one person is going to be able to bring in the finances that you are going to use to finance an election. They are going to reach out to their friends. And so if you are acceptable across the South and of course going to the North, it means you'll be able to also get those your friends to assist in mobilizing the funds that is needed. Because in a particular local government where you have a friend who possibly can afford to finance an election in 1 or 2 wards, he has helped you to take away the financial burden in taking care of those wards. You were asking your first guest a while ago about how he's going to get persons to get across the length and breadth of the Federation. I'm not too sure you were quite satisfied with his explanation as to that, but I don't want to go into that. So my boss, the governor, is bringing in a whole lot to the table. And his choice clearly demonstrates that the PDP and indeed the presidential candidate is very much ready to hit the ground running. You can see a number of other political parties either they are not able to come up with who is going to be the vice presidential flag bearer, or they are coming up with the please who technique, which goes to show that they are not even serious and do not understand the challenges of the moment. But in PDP, we are very much ready. Atiku himself is very much prepared to hit the ground running, which is why he took that very strategic decision to nominate Senator Dr. Obinna Okowa, governor of Delta State, as his running mate.
Comrade Adebayo, I want to come to you in just a moment, but I want to stay with the commissioner because you talked about his acceptability, but we even understand that he's having some sort of crisis even within Delta State. We understand that some of the political stalwarts in the PDP in Delta State were not at the reception, that he might have fallen out with some of his, in quote, political benefactors and godfathers. If that is the case, if he's having issues in his own state, how acceptable is he within the PDP in the South and in the Southeast, generally in the South?
Well, I can tell you that we are not having any crisis. What you see in politics is that individuals have different views as to what they want to bring to the table. And so the reason why it's called a contest is because a number of persons will come together. It becomes competitive. Individuals have their aspiration. And so once you are not able to meet up with your aspiration, the tendency for you to be a little angry or disagree with others is there. Then what you now proceed to do, those who have become successful in the course of the contest, is to reach out. It's a normal thing in politics. And as I can talk to you, as I'm speaking to you rather, the PDP and indeed the leaders of the party are already reaching out to individuals whose aspirations have not been met in the course of this electioneering process. It's an internal thing where you see political parties, those who aspire at the level of the intra-party election, had their own followers. They believe that they were also in a position to at least bring in certain policies and programs to address the many challenges confronting our country today. And so if after the primaries, they are not able to emerge either as contestants or as followers or as sympathizers, you do expect that there will be some level of disappointment. Now it behoves on the leaders of the party to now proceed to reach out to those persons with a view to having a common front. And I know that my elder brother, the Aki Nshutugu, will agree with me that it has been the norm. And the party, presidential flag bearer, and indeed the leadership of the party are already reaching out to those persons whose dreams and aspirations were not met immediately, believing that once the party is able to proceed to win the election, there are many other areas where individuals can afford to bring in the values and, of course, the intentions they have for the people with a view to still achieving the common goal, which is to recover Nigeria. And I can assure you there's no cause for alarm in Delta. We are very much on ground, and we are quite hopeful that in the course of the electioneering campaign, Atiku will be able to lead the team, being the principal, to be able to canvass the votes and talk to Nigerians as to what he is bringing on board, and that will help to rescue and, of course, recover our country from where it is at the moment.
Comrade Adebayo, I just wanted to respond to what the commissioner said. There is no cause for alarm in Delta. He talked about the acceptability of Governor Obinna Okowa and that he's able to bring some value to this ticket. How strategic do you think that decision was?
Well, I think, for the PDP and his candidate, Wazirin, Adamawa, Atiku Abubakar, it was a straightforward thing. It was the easier choice for him to make. You are a northern Muslim. I mean, naturally, you come to the south and pick a Christian. And of course, he masterfully went ahead and picked Obinna Okowa, a man who doesn't have the kind of controversies that other people might have. He's not a publicly controversial person. So I think he's masterfully. I think he did right in picking Okowa. But it's not the same thing for the APC and Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who are almost in the catch-22 situation now. You have to pick now between pragmatism and political correctness in terms of who, even ever before Asiwaju emerged as a presidential candidate of APC, people have been clamoring against Muslim ticket. Now, if you are going to be pragmatic, you don't go to the north and pick a Christian as your running mate. You're going to go and pick, but that's going to be pragmatic, but it's not politically correct in terms of the estimation and expectations of Nigerians of today because of the not so pleasant experiences in the last 7 years. People are dealing with the issue of Fulanization, allegation of Fulanization, the allegation of Islamization, and now you now come with a Muslim ticket. But the thing is that it's not a closed-end stuff because I still believe, being a master of the game himself, Asiwaju might still come out with some surprises because the issue now is that it now depends on the message of the APC and its candidate to the Nigerian people.
It is not the APC and its candidate that is we are talking about today. We're talking about the PDP and his vice presidential running mate and how strategic that decision was. And I want to bring the conversation back to you before we go back to the commissioner. He was talking about how much they're able to garner votes. But the Southeast seems to be feeling betrayed by the PDP because they feel that they have always delivered votes for the PDP. And if they did not get the presidential candidacy of the party, at least they should have gotten the vice presidential candidacy of the party. And I know that the governor who is now on the running mate says he's Igbo, who just happens to be find himself in a Delta State space, but he's Igbo. But do you think that the PDP has done itself justice in terms of picking Obinna Okowa and how that might hurt their chances in the Southeast?
Well, look, it's all about political calculation. Remember that one of the three most prominent presidential aspirants, Peter Obi, is from the Southeast. Now, of course, Nigerian politics, primarily or mainly, your ethno-nationality background matters, especially in the case of the Igbos, right? That they have not been, these are an extraneous argument to the ticket. It's a larger point to be made. And that is the fact that the principle of rotation of power in Nigeria, actually favor, it's justifiable, to expect, if you want to build a country, national integration, national unity, that you look, because in the first place, that was the original principle between the North and the South, rotation of power. Now, if it is the turn of the South, then you look for the most marginalized, quote unquote, who has not been there. But look, this, as you have said, there are pragmatic aspects and idealistic. It is an aspirational for the Igbos to be given that choice to become the president. So they are entitled, to feel betrayed or angry. But again, the calculations, you have to look, the PDP is looking to, that is a calculation that, look, Peter Obi is likely to carry the Southeast, substantially, right? They may not even be able to get 25% there. So he just thought, well, look, in that case, go to the South-South. Now, the thing about South-South is that they don't have the same monolithic ethnic formation, right, in the South-South. You have We have Ijos.
Ijos, yes.
You have
Shakiris, the Robos, the Sokos, the Edos.
Exactly.
All of that, all of Asans, all of them in the South.
Exactly. So there is that vulnerability about it, about choosing your candidate or your running mate from Delta State, right? It will ameliorate, the problem for them, because ethnically, Okowa is Igbo, which matters. So he has a reinforcing identity, in the midst of identity politics, that makes him not a liability. How much of an asset is going to be, I'm not sure. Because as the commissioner was speaking, there are some people, some governors from the South, principally Wike, who feels outdone or hard done by, so, and,
and I want to get to the Wike conversation in just a moment, but let me go to the commissioner and just raise this issue we're talking about with him. Commissioner, your principal, the governor, has said over and over again that, look, his father is from Anioma, his name is Ifeanyi for a reason. But when you look at the geopolitics of this, do you think that would pacify the Southeast and get the votes needed from that region, or from that zone, rather?
A president or a vice presidential candidate, the choice of Okowa is 100% very, very correct, because nobody is in doubt as to the fact that he's an Igbo man. But except you are talking about a geopolitical zone, in which case you said Southeast, so which means we are not talking about the ethnic group. Because I also do know that even in the Southeast, you have the Galas. Let's assume the Galas that are very close to Obolafo in Enugu emerges as the vice presidential candidate of the party or the presidential candidate. Will anybody on that wake up and say that that person is an Igbo man? And so if it's about the region, we need to be able to define it. And in terms of assuaging the feelings of our brothers and sisters across the Niger, Senator Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa have demonstrated that bridging the gap, which he has done in Delta, bridging the gap goes a long way in enhancing the productivity and development. You do know, like my elder brother Akion Shitoku clearly identified, that here in Delta, we have a lot of ethnic groups. We have the Jos, the Shakiris, the Isokos, the Robos, and of course the Anyomas. And in the last 7 years, I am sure that none of the media houses in the country have reported any form of ethnic crisis, which used to be the case in the past. It did not just come overnight. He took steps to ensure that he brought them together, unite them, working with both the youths especially, and of course the traditional institution. He was able to bring all these people together to the extent that today, what they think is one Delta. And what we do deserve as a country today is one Nigeria. And the only way we can achieve that is to have the Atiku Okowa mentality, where you believe that everybody matters, and then bring them to the table. What has worsened our situation in the last 7 years is that the APC government having won election, just like the president talked about the 95% and of course the 5%, he ended up implementing that, and that more like widened the gulf that exists between us, and he sharpened the fault lines in our country. We need a ticket that is going to bridge the gap, bring the people together irrespective of their ethnic groups or whatever their religion they profess, and then let them know that they have a say and a stake in the Nigerian nation. Whether you're a Christian or a Muslim, that your life matters. Once you do that, you are first of all able to bring in peace before you now proceed to implement other programs that you have. Otherwise, if you're not able to enjoy the trust of different segments of our society, you would have ended up not also helping us to bridge that gap. And if you are not able to bridge that gap, your development is going to have some issues. And I'm quite confident that the Atiku Okowa ticket is going to bridge that gap. And Okowa, being an Igbo man who happened to come from Delta State, will help to assuage the feelings of our brothers, kids and kin, of course, in the across the Niger.
Comrade Adebayo, people say that we play up the politics of zone and region when it suits us. For example, I am a part of you when it works for us, and then I am not a part of you when it doesn't seem to work for us. But when you look at this particular situation, does it work for Governor Ifeanyi Okowa that look, he speaks the language, but he's not, where he now falls into is the South. Do you think that that's enough that they, and I know that people are saying that in this particular election, people might be voting for personalities. Even people within political parties might not vote for their own candidates. They might vote for another personality. But do you think that he can garner the votes from the Southeast?
Look, for Obinna Okowa, I think it's the excellent choice for the PDP now and for Atiku. And when it comes to the issue of identity, you cannot take away his Igbo-ness. You cannot. So he's an Igbo man. He's in Niger. He's in the Delta state. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change. You know, there are a lot of Igbos in Niger Delta, in the Delta state, even in rivers. You understand? So it doesn't take anything away. You know, if you are going to play ethnic politics, like you asked, no, it doesn't work well for us as a nation in terms of nation building and development and security and all the challenges we are facing. We shouldn't be playing this politics of regionalism and religion and the rest of that. If not for certain intervening variables that have thrown up these things, we should not be talking about religion. Let's give this country to the best hands to manage. Let's put aside religion, ethnicity, and the rest of that. But unfortunately, Nigeria has become a balloon, and ethnicity and religion have become like a pin. Punch it once, there's an implosion. And I think the best hands to handle this country will be that person who will see himself as a Nigerian, who will see himself as a big builder, who will see himself as the Lee Kuan Yew of our country, who will see himself as somebody who is coming on a rescue mission. I do not care where you are from, I do not care your religion, but in terms of choice of running mate, I think Atiku has hit the bulls in the eye, and I think he has done well in choosing Obinna Okowa. And like I said the other time, this is a man who has managed to run away from controversy. He's not controversial. He's somebody that is known to be temperate. He's somebody who is known to be accommodating and the rest of that. I'm not from Delta. I'm a Yoruba man. But that is the kind of impression I have of Obinna Okowa. And I think that combination, he will assuage to a large extent the ill feelings or the complaints of the Southeast. People are going to see him now as their son, and not necessarily he's from Delta State, because he's an Igbo man. It's not about the state he's from. It's about his ethnicity. It's about his identity. At a point in time, with a lot of efforts, with stakeholders coming together, and as our nation unfolds in these democratic processes, we'll move away from this politics of ethnicity and religion, and I believe our country will be the best for it. But 2023 is so crucial that we give this country to the best hands to manage our country. And I believe that, look at the young people now. I like the revolution, the new revolution of going to get your PVC and the rest of that. Then there's a reawakening. And I want to appeal to the leadership of the political class too, to have that reawakening, that Nigeria is about us. It's about the present, it's about the future.
And not continue to play up the ethnic
that is it, that can continue to divide us. We should not play any politics of division, any politics of, that has created a huge hiatus between the North and the South. And somebody must come. That's why you see that most of the presidential aspirants, and some of them who are now candidates, are saying they're calling themselves unifiers. If there's no division, nobody will call himself a unifier. We go and look at almost every aspirant in the just concluded primaries called himself a unifier. So there's something to be unified, and we need someone to unify us, to unify us, and to give this country security, progress, unity, and to bring a revolution in our educational system and our health system, so that Nigeria can be Nigeria and move forward as a country, as a nation. We don't have a nation yet. We have a country. We must build this country. And to do that, it requires commitment, it requires patriotism, it requires competency and capacity to be able to aggregate all the Nigerian potential. We still have those potentials. They are not all gone. And this country, I bet you, with the right leadership, the sky is the beginning for us, and Nigeria is going to get there.
Absolutely. And let me come to you, Mr. Shutoko. You were going to speak to the Wike factor in the PDP. You can't take that away from the PDP. He's one of the strongest voices in the party. He's been loyal, and he says that a lot, that he's going to stay in the PDP for as long as possible. But when you look at the fact that even his camp, just after Governor Okowa was picked, there were those who are his supporters who were aggrieved by that decision, and some party members who are not necessarily even his supporters, they were also aggrieved by that decision. Do you think that also poses a problem for the PDP going into the elections?
Yes, and that's why they must find a formula to manage it. There's also the question of peer rivalry. I think it's a logical reaction from Wike to be disappointed, that he was not chosen. Don't forget that he came second at the primaries, and that qualifies. That's a qualification for the running to be a running mate. So, but it's always going to result in controversy. There is no one who Majiku picks in the South that will not generate controversy. Now, Wike is a bit temperamental, from what you see on TV. So many people may not feel comfortable.
You think that perhaps is one of the factors that might have robbed him of the prospect of being the running mate to Atiku?
It certainly is. So his image loomed very large, in the race to the primaries. And the most conspicuous aspect of his personality was a temperamental person, So, and I think Atiku also, he said that, not that he said it directly, that in his consultation about whom to pick, as running mate, this issue came up, that Wike is a bit temperamental. But at the end of the day, only one person will get the position. This is how you live with. There's no way that anger should be assuaged that there's only one of them in the 6 states who can get the ticket. But that is, as I said, the PDP has his task cut out for it. What is happening it should be expected. It's a logical, response to what has happened. And of course, as I said, it's going to tax the management skill, of the PDP in getting buying into the ticket.
Let's get to Commissioner. Has the governor, that's Governor Okowa, reached out to Governor Wike? Where does their relationship stand at the moment?
Well, let me tell you that every leader in the PDP and even the followers do acknowledge that Governor Nyesom Ezewan Wike of Rivers State is a force, not only in the party, but in the country. He's a man who has also demonstrated a great skill in terms of development, just like Governor Okowa has in Delta. And so the leaders of the party are already in talks with him. Of course, we are not like the other newer parties that will talk to somebody and then the next thing you see the pictures on the social media, and then for you to know that they are talking. But I can assure you that they are talking. Some members of the party, beyond Wike, they are also reaching out to a number of persons across the divide, whether in the north or in the south, because it is believed that working together, they will be able to return the party to winning ways. And so nobody is taken for granted the strength of Wike, his contribution to the party, the fact that to a very large extent he has helped to also advance the cause of opposition in the country. That is one major thing that you cannot take away from him. And so it behoves on the leaders of the party, which I'm sure they have started, to indeed discuss with him. And one good thing, too, that you cannot also take away from Nyesom Wike is the fact that he has made it very clear that he's a party man. Yes, your interest is one thing, but the collective interest is another. And I do know that Wike is going to bury his personal interest under the interest of the general interest of the party, because he's a party man who believes that the APC has not done well in the last 7 years, and that the best option is for him to join other leaders of the party like he has done in the past, with a view to galvanizing many Nigerians, both from the north and in the south, and at the end of the day, returning the party to winning ways. And so we don't have any fear that the leaders will continue to reach out with him, and that Wike, being a party man, will indeed see reason why they will all work together for the good of the party, and indeed the desire to return our country to a part of development.
Commissioner, you have carefully answered my question and just danced around it, but you haven't actually answered the question. I want to actually know what the relationship is.
I told you we are not like the new political parties that advertises what we do.
Commissioner, I know that they used to have a very good relationship. I don't know where it stands now. When you see them at the Southern Governors Forum, when you see them at the PDP Governors Forum, you would know that they had a good relationship. Wike has not released any statement since this announcement was made. But where does their relationship stand?
Now, let me tell you, when you use the word they had, you are talking about the past tense. The relationship between Governor Okowa and Ezewan Nyesom Wike of Rivers State is still very, very cordial. I mentioned earlier that in the course of politicking, you could have different interests. But at the end of the day, those interests dovetail into how to bring about harmony that will give way to, or possibly pave way for the development of the country. You wanted me to answer strictly as to whether Senator Obinna Okowa had called Wike on phone. I told you that we're not like the other smaller political parties that will go and advertise whatever we do on Facebook. What we do is that when we are discussing, the party leaders discuss, strategizes, and at the end of the day, you see the result rather than just the effort. And that is what is going on. I can assure you, Wike, being a party man, will continue to maintain the good relationship he has always had with the Senator Dr. Obinna Okowa of Delta State. And if you also understand the person of Senator Okowa, you will know that he will not only reach out to Wike, he will continue to discuss with him as a brother, first of all, from the South-Side geopolitical zone, as a partner in development, as a partner in the building of the party, because both of them are strong party men. So be rest assured that when it comes to their relationship, that there is no cause for alarm. And I say that very, very advisedly.
When he lost and I'm talking about Governor Wike, when he lost the presidential ticket of the PDP, one of the things he said was that he felt betrayed by the southern governors on the PDP platforms, especially because they had been clamoring for a southern presidential candidate, and that he didn't feel that it got behind him. So what are the guarantees that Governor Wike will get behind this particular ticket and support it? Because we have been hearing from some PDP people who say, members who say, look, we might not be supporting this ticket.
Well, you do know that Wike, ahead of that election, took a whole lot of steps to consult across the length and breadth of our country. And of course, he had high hopes that he would possibly be able to emerge victorious. And so if at the end of the day, it didn't go that way, you don't expect him to just immediately begin to smile. And so I can assure you that he has put that behind him, which was why in the course of the choice of the vice presidential running mate, he was also one of those persons penciled down. And he took steps to see how a number of other party faithful could work together for the purpose of leaving the party very much intact. And so Wike, that I know, a strong party man, has gone beyond the result of the presidential primary and the anger that traded, which is normal and expected. He is already working with other leaders of the party. But of course, there is something they said in our local parlance, even when you beat a baby, at least democratically allow that baby to be able to cry for a while. Right. And so in this case, if a man who has worked very hard like Nyesom Wike lost an election, you don't just assume that it doesn't matter. He should be able to look at it because he has followers. There are persons who have supported him. And I can assure you that Okowa is one of those persons who believe that Wike is a strong force and their relationship will remain intact because we'll continue to have respect.
We'll take your word for it, but we'll continue to, most of these things will always come to the public space. We'll continue to monitor developments within your party. Thank you so much for talking to us, Delta State Commissioner for Information.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Charles Daniago. Let me bring as we begin to wind down, you can almost count on Wike to stay in the party. But with the situation of things, can the PDP count on Wike to get behind this ticket and ensure that it succeeds?
It's a tough one. But I want to believe, considering the investment, the huge investments, personal investment of Governor Wike into PDP, he might not want to dump a party with malaria and go and join the one with cancer, like he has said. If you look at his past interview, where he said he would rather stay with PDP that has malaria than go to another party that has cancer. So I wouldn't know whether that mindset will change now, but it would, like she said, it would tax the managerial capacity of the leadership of the PDP to be able to make Wike remain within not only just remain within the party, but to support, to get behind the ticket and give his full support, because his support is needed, is required. And I think, well, I'm sure, I want to believe that the candidate and the running mate will do well to, they will have started engaging him, because
to become that unifier first within their party.
They will make sure they bring him in.
Because of time, we'll have just a minute more left. Let me bring the conversation to you, Mr. Shutoku. We saw that in Ekiti, PDP was the third force, which was quite, a lot of people said it was quite embarrassing for the party, because, it should be the major party, major opposition rather. But do you think, what are the chances of the PDP? Do you think that the PDP is now setting itself up to become a third force going into this election, when you see the emergence of other candidates in this, especially from like Kwankwaso and Peter Obi?
No, you know, fortunately, I'm from Ekiti. You know, it was a division. Actually, the PDP and the SDP were actually the PDP. You know, how do you know?
Because of Shegun.
Yeah. So it's again boils down to the question of management. The leader of the PDP in the state, the former governor, I think didn't do sufficient enough to manage, to get the people together. So it's not as if it's a unique position. It's not a trend. It's not a trend across the country.
The Ekiti State situation was just peculiar to Ekiti State.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm out of time. I mean, this is a very interesting conversation to talk about, but I'm out of time. Thank you so much for talking to us. Political advisor to President, former political advisor to former President Olusegun Obasanjo and fellow of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, Akin Oshutoku, as well as civil rights activist, Comrade Mark Adebayo. Thank you
so much
for talking to us.
Thank you.
And that's the political standpoint today. You can watch out for our repeats much later in the day. I think that's 11 p.m. Today and 5 a.m. on Sunday. Thanks for watching.